2:01, and we'll go ahead and call this workshop to order. In attendance, we have all board members. We have Carol, Doug, myself, Ed, and Bob. And let's go ahead and start discussion on, well, parks, there's nothing. Do we want to talk about that, or we want to go to agenda and that?
Well,
Go ahead, Doug.
yeah, can we start with the parks?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because the bids have now come in on the administrative building, and, we have several options in front of us, but it appears that that project is probably going to be longer than we thought it was going to be.
Correct.
And of course, with construction, there are always add orders, and there's always, it usually takes
Delays.
more time.
Unforeseen things.
Yes, and usually it takes, well, the general, I think, rule of thumb is 50% more time than you thought it was going to take. So if we said it was going to take a year or whatever. I think this year we did, we've had an awful lot on our plate as a board. And I'm thinking, are there some things, and in both Parks and Rec and in the regular budget, that maybe we feel that should be pushed back to the 26 budget, because it's probably just not going to get done in 25, and we're probably not going to spend the money, so why should we budget for it in 25? Are there some things that we could, we may eventually do them, but let's push them back to 26 and maybe kind of clear our plate a little bit of big projects. And I'm kind of putting that out there to the board here.
Personally, I completely understand where you're coming from. On this item, I would say there's probably a large likelihood we may not get the work done in fiscal year 2025, but we've got momentum. We've put surveys out. We've done everything. I think if it was my preference, I would say we should vote on it and push it forward.
But do you need to budget for it?
Yeah, because you have to budget for it. But knowing that,
well, do you have to budget for it in 25?
Well, but my point is, you budget for it. Some of that may not be realized in 2025, depending on construction time. So we could approve it. We may not spend that money. It might spill over into 2026. But I would just hate to prolong it. We can talk about maybe the conversation that we should be having is what is within the budget to do. Mm-hmm. So that's the first question. And then the second is, what can we feasibly get done in 2025? We may say, we might be able to do 50% of what we had planned in the phase 2A project. We might only be able to budget 50% of that, or 75%. So I think we back into what we can afford, and then we look at scheduling, because we don't really know until you bid things out and you get things going whether they're going to be on time or not.
Right.
I think we'd all probably say most things are going to go over, but I would just hate to wait another year and have to do surveys again and continue discussion. Either we're going to push forward with it or we're not.
Well, like one of the things we did last year was we went through the list of projects, the project list that was, mapped out into the different years. I don't think we've done that this year yet as a board, and sat here and said, okay, now do we really think the dog park's going to get moved next year? Or is it going to be in 26? Right. Type thing. Or is this going to happen? Are we really going to spend the money in 25, or should we look more to moving that to 26 and then make sure we're going to do it there? I'm just pulling the dog park out of my mind.
Yeah, no, that's a good example though.
But things like that. I'm thinking maybe we should go through that capital list and really hone in on, is it going to be this year or next year? And then budget for this year, not necessarily
Well, we should
next year.
definitely do that before we finalize the budget.
Yes,
That makes perfect
that's-
sense.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, but
Yeah, but we kind of have to decide that today so that they have everything ready by the 15th.
well, no, because you can make changes up to the 15th, like,
I'm,
so,
okay,
go ahead, I'll go last on this one.
It's music to my ears what I'm hearing down there, but that's not what I agreed to a year ago. Our deal was we were gonna go get a park plan, we were going to phase the park plan, and we were gonna get the information of what it cost, both capital cost and operation and maintenance costs, and then make a decision. We're about a third there. We now have a bid, whether we keep the bid or not, we have a bid, and we're looking at $1.2 million just for the site work. We haven't touched the amenities, and we don't have any money pricing on the amenities. I at least like to go far enough to have our engineer and architect give us an engineer's pre-estimate, not plans and specs, a pre-estimate based on this plan right here of what these amenities are gonna cost. So that we can add that cost to this 1.2 million and then throw in the operating, and then we have a true cost of what this is gonna do. Then, if we see that we wanna phase it further, we can go back and either cut out this or cut out that or whatever. But then we have all the facts on which to base, because right now, I don't have a clue of what the dollar value of
Cost.
the amenities are going to be. Is that another $1 million, another $1.5 million? I don't know. But we
Well-
need that information, I think, to go ahead.
but Ed, today is August 1st.
Correct.
We're adopting this August 15th. We
I
have to,
understand.
2 weeks from today.
I understand.
Are you proposing having meetings in
but-
between?
But there's nothing
because
that
I-
we're
Or something-
doing,
I don't,
there's nothing that we're doing at this point in time
that needs
that
it.
impacts that,
Yeah.
because we're not awarding the contracts at this point in
No,
time.
but you've budgeted for the whole administrative building. You've budgeted for.
Well,
But we
Admin's
have,
sep-
that's
totally
separate,
That's separate.
I was gonna say that.
The admin building is separate, but the park, right now, it's tied to the admin only to the extent
Site work.
that from a logical perspective of
From the
construction,
earthwork part.
you would do it at that time.
Okay.
Chelsea,
Chelsea.
you've got initial estimates for the amenities, correct?
Yes,
For most of them?
and well, we received 2 quotes and they were drastically different. But the plan, or at least the tentative plan, was get the permit done for the DO amendment, get that under our belt, and then have Tetra Tech and Holmontes focus on the next bid package, which would be the vertical stuff, so we could get you hard pricing on
But
that.
even if, to Ed's point, and I mean,
I
having
don't
the
need
dollars
my-
is important, but even if you've got 2 quotes
Mhm.
for the amenities, regardless of one's high and one's low, let's just take the average of that.
Start, yeah.
And we'll know at least ballpark, that's probably gonna be more real than even Tetra Tech or having, getting Homontis to,
Yeah.
What
if
is-
we've
what
got
is- what
actual
is that
bids.
number?
I'd have to go back and look at it. It's
I
been
mean, are we
a
talking
couple
$1 million,
months.
$2 million?
Probably quarter, to
I was saying
3/4,
way less, yeah.
750.
750,000, so that we would be all in about $2 million.
Total.
Plus-
Capital.
And that's what I was
total,
thinking,
plus we've
yeah.
got,
Not operation, just capital.
yeah, but we also have, we've got funding to offset some of that total cost. Is that accurate with the
Yes.
impact fee?
$300,000.
Got 300, plus there was
Well,
another
we
2.
didn't make that decision, so
No, a potentially available.
potential
Yeah.
available, we have almost 700,000.
700,000 potentially.
So,
But that's usually some of the bond money that we've done, but the bottom line is.
no,
it's
not even,
all-
not that, no, complete opposite. Items that we had set for this year's budget to completion.
Oh, okay.
So we have almost $700,000, including the 300,000 from the county.
Well, it wouldn't take very much that if we now have a number, let's say 750, that we could do a capital cost and an operation maintenance cost breakdown, and we can easily have that at the meeting on the 15th to make a decision which way we want to go.
Yeah,
Easily.
So add the 1.2 plus 750.
Minus.
No.
Oh, no,
plus-
no, 1.2
plus.
plus 750,
Yeah.
and then we need to have a little asterisk saying, and we've got about
And it would just,
potentially up to 750 to offset.
yes, and
Well,
it,
the rest of it's just gonna be a debt retirement.
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
all.
But I think, I think
What's the
the,
750?
I thought we had 300 some thousand, I wasn't aware of another
The
400,000.
750 is for the actual
It
amenities,
was from last year.
for the
Last
court
year,
build
that's
out.
what
for
the
the-
law-
Money that we
Yeah.
had appropriated but not spent?
Oh, no,
Correct.
oh, okay.
yes, okay,
You're
hold
talking
on.
about 2 different.
Money that you
Yeah.
budgeted for.
I
Okay.
just want to understand.
So, and I'm gonna go talk, unless you can pull it up. So 300,000 would have come from the county
And
impact fees.
park impact
Impact.
fees.
Okay,
Okay.
that I understand.
Yeah.
That's pure
I-
credit.
I think 200,000 was dog park that was going to be moved this year, and it did not move.
Okay.
So I think
So
my.
if we spend it, we've already got it.
But
we
we
could
haven't.
we could
So-
reallocate
So what I
that.
would like is at the budget saying, instead of just being carryover, it'll be a carryover for Parks and Rec. So it won't be a carryover to the bucket, it'll be
Got it.
specifically for that, because that's what we budget for.
What's the other item?
$220,000 for splash pad. And then I think there was $100,000 for,
Additional, well,
it
There's
was
some-
something for
there's-
100,000. So, and then there were a lot of small little things that we
There's-
could add, but I was just thinking, let me take 3 big items plus the 300 from the county. I was happy with around
So the
700,000.
only thing that we really need to crunch then is to crunch out what the debt requirement's going to be on approximately $1.2 million.
Which is the
And
original.
then, and then
site work.
throw in what the operating cost's gonna be, that Steve Bloom
Correct.
gave us at 350,
Which is gonna be lower, because if we only have $750,000 to use, because the operation and maintenance of $750,000 worth of stuff is gonna be way less than if it was much
So
bigger.
anyway, those two things would be easy to throw together in a final Park and Rec discussion of where we're at, and then at that meeting, make a decision which way.
That's
go
when
with
you
that.
decide whether
Yeah.
you want to put the infrastructure in and move forward, knowing what the cost is at that
Yeah.
point.
Yes,
It makes perfect sense to me.
okay.
well, so just to add into that kind of meeting middle ground between what Carol's saying and I think what we're trying to discuss is we did put some O&M cost into the budget for this year, about 100,000.
100,000.
And I can tell you right off the cuff that I know we won't have a full year's worth of O&M costs because we won't have the actual amenities if we proceed up until probably this time next summer. So that there is a potential savings right there if you want to reduce that O&M line item.
I mean, realistically, we won't hit 100% O&M until 2026.
Right.
Probably.
But
To go, that's probably true.
So I think that's kind of how, and like for me, and I agree with both. I think there's momentum. I think the survey was great. It was a perfect no. But it did give us some insights, and it got us thinking, right? I think the most important part for me would be to pick a number, because infrastructure, it has to be done. Like, that has to be done, and that's the cost, and it is what it is. When it comes to Parks and Recs, I think that's when we as a board set a X amount of dollar aside and say 750 is 750. It's not gonna be 751. 750, that's it. And don't even come to us. If we told you 750, you're gonna bring it to 750.
Well,
So that's kind of how I feel when it comes to that. It will be easier because we are all agreeing that we are not gonna go a dollar over. And if you can't get 5 things done, then you get 3 things done. If you can't get 3 things done, then you get 1 thing.
And just to add on to that, I think what I love about that is, let's say if 750 is the number, there's no impact to residents.
Not if it's 750.
So, because
you
we
already
can
have-
self-fund that
Yes.
through, a
Technically,
potential
everybody-
available revenue. So it wouldn't, we could do phase 2B, no, 2A,
2A.
and
yeah.
it not impact the residents because we have
Because
that
they
money
already,
already
technically
out.
already paid for
Yeah.
it, and then we are adding impact fees.
Well,
And we're not even talking about sponsorship. So, which that, I think Randy's working on it. But if we keep it like 750, and I mean, I have to go back and see if the staff has spent some of that money, because I haven't looked at that yet. And I
then-
guess that will be with Daniel.
And just,
but-
I know Ed wants to jump in, and then doing the site work along with the building just makes sense. And we've talked about it, just, if you're gonna do it, it's gonna be out there, might as well.
Well, the other thing too is that when you take, and 1.2 is the number in the ballpark of where we're going, that principal interest over a 20-year payment is a pittance compared to the O&M.
Mhm.
O&M is gonna be the tail that wags the dog.
Yeah.
And that's the
Always
numbers
is.
we need
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah.
But the other one, and we'll get into that discussion later on relative to the bids, is there's a disparity in the bids. One guy bids this, another guy bids this, and I mean, they're like this far
You mean
apart.
the admin building?
Parks.
Or parks, yeah,
Parks.
yeah.
Big,
And-
almost a 6-to-1 ratio. That tells me that maybe 1.2 million is not accurate. In fact, I would guess 1.2 million is not accurate. So if we were considering that, I think there's some options we'll talk about later on that you could do that make the guys that do the bid tell the truth.
Okay.
Yeah.
In other
And-
words, don't tie the two together.
And then
Okay.
the other
If-
thing hold on 1 second. The other thing that I want to talk about, we talked about this, because I don't want to call it carryover. So For the 750, it's items that we allocated for specifically Parks and Recs that we will just hold on and use it there. But there is also, I think, was it 2.2 million carryover? Was it 700? Actually, it was around. It was around 750,000 too. That is just going to be. That was the latest estimate for carryover of just the general.
In addition
budget,
to,
in addition to. Which I think would be fair to probably utilize the admin, because you know you don't want to just add it all that carry over to one pot. So add the 750 that we allocated for Parks and Recs to Parks and Recs, and if there's carryover just of the general, would it go into the admin building? Because I do think we're going to need it there.
I think we have options.
If the money
Yes.
wasn't spent, carry over, however you want to call it. If the money, we budgeted it, but we didn't spend it, and that's funds that are available to offset other costs.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
It could offset the park.
And in the
It
past,
could offset the
And-
admin building, or it could
or
reduce,
anything.
or it could reduce.
and
the
historically,
general
what we've
assessment.
done
And
is,
so that's kind of how I was thinking, and I thought we talked about this in the previous meeting, that we went out, we did the budget, and we budgeted for Parks and Recs, that's 700,000 that we're not talking about. So residents are aware. They know that I'm paying this part of my taxes is going to that. So I want to keep that promise. It's still going to go to that. I don't
If
want
it's spent at all.
if it's spent at
If
all.
it's spent at all,
it's
it
gonna
should
go
go
to
to
that.
parks. I
And
agree.
that creates,
You agree?
like I said, 2 to 3
You agree?
different financing options or project options that we can consider. We just need numbers.
Well, and one other thing, again, just extending on that you have options. I don't know if you caught it at the last meeting when Stephen Bloom mentioned it, but we have quite a bit of interest that we've earned off of some of the investments that we've done to the tune of about $475,000. So, and then Pelican Fund has, I think about 100,000. So there are options. We have options to help either offset the admin building fee if it comes in higher, and or park.
is that from crypto?
It's
I
that
don't
little-
know,
it's that
I don't
little
care,
thing
but
that
it's
Tony
good.
gave it to Bob.
It's positive. That's all that matters.
Or if we didn't spend any of that money, we could reduce the whole burden.
For the record.
The whole bird, yeah.
It was devoid of any valid currency. Any currency, not even Confederate bills.
So there's some really positive things
Yeah.
this year.
How far is Randy with the sponsorship information?
Parks and Recreation, the Parks and Rec Committee is going to be seeing it at their next meeting. The packet was posted for, I believe, the events. We're working towards the larger amenity sponsorship now.
That's cool.
You might want to take a look at that. It's on
So
the
we'll
parks.
put golden arches going into the park.
If you're paying for them.
Pelican's going to sponsor it, right?
Ed Tinkle bocce courts. No, Ed Tinkle, you like the pickleball, don't you?
Yeah.
I want a putting green.
There you go. You could,
Mini golf. Got it.
you sponsor it, we'll build it.
I'm just gonna be quiet. For once. I'm not gonna say anything.
But
I'm not saying anything.
I just don't want to look at that money and said, however, whatever that total comes to, yeah, we have to spend it, because we don't.
No, yeah, we know that.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Well, and most importantly, we're trying to manage, manage to assessment costs. We want those to be as low as we can possibly get them, however we can do
But
that,
if we're gonna
while
spend
doing
one-
all the things that we deem important and necessary.
but I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we're going to spend 1.2 million, however we fund it, we're still spending 1.2 million, period.
Agree.
Okay, so we'll go to Parks and Recs.
So can I just ask for clarification what you want at the next meeting? So a couple months back, we worked with Stephen Bloom on getting the assessment numbers. That's how we ended up getting that $88 number.
I
So
think we do capital costs, we do O&M costs, what this projected thing is gonna look like based upon what we had originally planned, which was phase 2A, B, or whatever. The one that is alternative 2, and the amenities that are associated with it. We have a capital cost and an O&M cost about those, and then have maybe 3 or 4 options. One straight bond issue, one bond issue with the impact fee, one bond with the issue with the 2024 budget money, and come up with all those spreads, which are gonna result from a high principal and interest payment down to something low, because we're gonna use cash to pay it down.
Yeah, and
The O&M's not gonna change.
the last thing I would say is I would recommend that staff, as you're going through and you're putting those numbers together, specifically amenity costs, and detailing what those amenities are in detail. We need to know how many pickleball courts, how many bocce, how many,
What's the bid
whatever that is. But then also have staff do a final validation of those amenities. Just in the event, we've done a lot of surveys, we've still are having a lot of communication. Is there something that we have missed? Is there something that is more important that we need to maybe pull one item and swap it with something else, or, again, it's to prioritization, because if we spend the money, and this is phase one, we need as close to 100% utilization
Yes, that's what I'm
of,
thinking.
of those components. So if we've got something that, maybe we should push to a further phase and replace with something else, whether it's enhancing the walking parks or more, picture, because then we have to think about the demographics. And I would go back to that survey and look at, especially
The notes?
the notes, and those that are in that, that over 60 age group that had a high percentage of saying no. My gut says that that's primarily for cost implications, but also there could be because they may feel there's amenities that they would not leverage. And I'm only 8 years away from being in that population anyway. But you know what I mean? Let's reprioritize and validate
Getting old
one
is
last
tough,
time.
Doug.
I know. Geez.
It's tough.
It's a different conversation, 10 years ago when I was.
All right.
Well,
I'm good.
I
You
don't,
good with
I'm good.
that?
have we taken a vote on we are going to do this park plan?
We
No.
don't have
But
costs
we've
on
taken a
it.
vote on to the point
The
that
site-
we're
the
taking
site work
bids
only.
on that plan.
We,
That's all we've
yes.
done.
No, we made a motion that we were gonna go ahead and move with site plan. And now depending on how those
But you
bids
don't- but to
come,
take-
then we can either reject it all
But I
or.
mean, we've done that now. That's a day's discussion for later on, is how we accept or not accept those bids. But we have done what we said we were gonna do. Now, we kind of got a little twisted.
Well, I mean, I feel this board moving forward on this plan. And
To the
We've
point,
done the step-
only until we understand all the numbers.
We've done the steps that we
I-
have to do
I think-
right now.
I think as a group, I think we have felt building out that commons area could be a positive thing for the community. And we've gotten to this point.
I don't
But-
disagree with you.
But we
But-
haven't raised our hands and said, yes, we approve moving forward with
No,
we're
phase
not
voted on
2A
the-
and the dollar
We
amount
don't
that goes
have
with it.
that.
Yeah, we haven't done
We
that.
don't have the information to do
Right,
that
right.
yet.
That's what Ed's saying. We need to make sure we know all the ins and outs, exactly how it's going to impact the district, how it's going to impact our residents from an assessment perspective. Only then can we raise our hand and say we are for moving forward that or not.
The
We've
same
got,
criteria applies to the building, to the administration.
Yes, well, the needs are a bit different, because that's when we talk about infrastructure, because I think the
But
building.
as far
only-
as the
I
methodology
think
that
for
Doug just,
anything,
we've only exposed ourselves to the cost of analysis at this point. We will
Say
vote
it
in the
again.
future. We've only exposed ourselves financially to the cost that it's taken us to get to this analysis.
yes.
So now we have numbers, and now we vote up or
Well,
down on both
Yes,
things.
because at the meeting at 3:00, that's when we're gonna
Yeah,
talk
we'll
about
talk
the
about that
bids.
later.
So it's not like a.
right, we have to
We'll
approve the
give you
bids.
that answer
But we
at
have
3:00,
approved
yeah.
the administrative
Oh,
building.
yes,
Yeah, we just haven't approved the,
cost and this is.
Right.
No, no,
We've
wait a minute,
approved
Doug, wait.
100% design.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've approved
all
the
that
building.
sort of stuff, But we have not issued the contract. When you issue the
Correct.
contract,
That's
you're
When you
spending
say,
the money.
Doug, when
Yeah.
you're saying
When
we've
you issue
approved the
that
building,
contract, that's a yes.
What
We
are
are
you saying?
absolutely building this building.
Just that.
we've approved the building.
We've approved the building
We
to
haven't-
be bid.
to-
That's
yeah.
as far as
to
we've
be
gone.
bid.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
To be
Okay,
bid.
okay, I want to
And
make
which is
sure I,
which is the 3:00 time.
okay,
That's
but I
the
just wanted to make
conversation
sure
we're
Yeah,
having
that
that.
we're on the same,
Yeah.
I didn't get a step ahead of myself. I didn't think we,
We're going down the proper steps.
Okay.
Doing the things you need to do to make the decision of what to do on the building and what to do on the
Okay.
park.
All right.
We're now getting
Yeah.
close to that. The park is a little bit later because of the fact we need some of this data. The building, we can talk about that at 3:00.
okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
which I think will be easier. All right. There's one more that I have to talk
All that
and I forgot.
excitement, did you lose where we were at?
I did. I was gonna say something and then, yeah.
Okay, so P-PAC did a yeoman's work, in my opinion, of paring down what the high water mark that the 002 fund, the Pelican Fund, had. And made numbers of changes in it and all that sort of stuff, all which is reflected in version 4, right, Laura?
Correct.
Right. And so I guess what I'm saying now is there other parts of the budget that you guys would like us to look at to pare down? Because
I
what
think-
I'm hearing from the three of you is that you're content with the high watermark numbers on the other parts of the budget.
I don't know, unless you tell me specifically where you think we could cut, I think it's bare bones to me. Like giving, like the operations, like you can't really change that. It's, It's just the cost increase of whatever they are charging us now. So if you have a specific item, and I think that's kind of how the conversation should go for the next topic, if you have a specific item that you want us to take a look at it, then we can talk about that. But I looked in, and as much as I want to cut here and there, it was,
I did it a little different.
why?
For years, my fault, I've concentrated on 001. That's my bailiwick, 001. I let you guys do your 002. Well, just the other day, I started looking and one question going to another, and I got some questions and some serious issues about the assessment methodology being done over there. Not so much in Pelican Reserve, it's that outlying area. I have no idea of who's running the ship over there, none.
When you say over there, what do you?
All the outside
The Winn-Dixie,
areas,
the
outside
cone,
it's what we call outside the district.
Okay.
If you go in here, you'll see that they have two rates and charges, one for single family, multifamily, and golf course, as I recall.
Yep.
That's Pelican. All of that and all of the history and the background of how that money was derived for budgeting purposes is there. And you just take your mathematics that the assessment methodology says, you fund it into the different accounts, drops down and come up with a rate. Outside is a little bit more confusing. Yeah, thank you.
I remember what I
I
was
was
going to say
a
right now.
little befuddled at that number of the $386,000 for what appears to be maybe 160, 170 homes and 8 or 10 commercial establishments that are essentially what appears to be about 10% of the total. But in reality, I can't picture them anywhere near 10%. Well, it's kind of hard to make a decision of what the answer is on that when you don't have the math.
So we have to go back to Russ.
I'm still not understanding the question, so take it a little slower.
Laura gave to me today a document that's not out there on the website on this, but it's the backup to this. And what I looked at is.
Part of the backup.
I'm sorry?
It's part of the backup.
Part of the backup. Anyway, when I look at it, Pelican outside the gates, those people are paying essentially two components. $94,000 for stormwater management, okay? And $291,000 for administration. $291,000 for less than, I'm gonna say less than 10% of the deal, and the total is $2,360,000. How that math comes out, I have no idea.
So
Well,
who are
just
these
common
outside people you're talking about?
Commercial.
Are you talking
I'm showing
about
you commercials and
the two
C5s.
shopping centers on?
Yes.
Yeah,
Carol-
side?
C5,
Okay.
The
C5.
7-Eleven.
Carol, if you look at the
Walgreens,
screen,
But what got
it's the
me,
stuff
though-
that's under the outside heading. That's what he's talking about.
Oh,
What
okay.
got me though, they're not paying any of our administration. Not a penny. Not a penny. How the hell did that happen? Somebody dropped the ball. Not
Well, who was-
one
who was
single cent.
Who headed the
I'm
the
guessing,
methodology?
I'm guessing when Russ put together the assessment methodology, I'm guessing, because he's in Chicago, couldn't get a hold of him, I am guessing he thinks that 291 is our administration here, gateways, that we have. Right now, if you recall, and you on our book, right off the bat, we have a distribution of costs. 59% of admin goes to enterprise. 14% goes to you all on inside the gate, and 29% goes to us. Okay? Where's theirs?
well, where's the money going?
Well, there's no money coming. It's not going, it's
where
coming.
where it's coming.
It's coming.
It's not coming
It's
in.
not coming in.
They aren't paying their share.
They're not paying anything at all.
They're not paying anything at all.
I'm on the
I'm
admin.
double checking, but the administrative charge that you're seeing in there does include that 14% that we share in the allocation cost because they're paying into the 002 fund. So if any administrative costs that were assigned to 002 are divvied
Now you're
up.
opening up another can of worms.
Well, are they?
The
Because
14
That's what I'm
the
double
four-
checking.
Because then the
four-
14% it wouldn't make sense in the math, because I was doing that math.
The 14% was calculated based upon essentially 2,500 homes out of 5,200 homes. He's throwing another 200 or 300 ERUs. So 14's not 14, it's gonna be 15 or 16.
Well, until we hear from Russ, we don't really know.
Do what now?
Until we
Oh, yeah,
understand
well, I'm
from
just
Russ.
pointing
Isn't
out
Russ gonna
that
get
when
the
I
ball?
started getting in, Carol asked the deal about ours. I think I'm ready to talk about ours as far as I'm concerned, and I can tell with the exception of that $100,000 we have in there budgeted for the park, I think our budget's pretty damn good. I think it's in pretty good shape. There are some aspects of our budget that we have no wiggle room. In other words, we don't have any fat built in it.
Well,
to
I
actually pull it out.
recall when we added the dental building in the Pelican shops about a year ago. And we notified Russ, I called him and said, hey, make sure, and the numbers changed because of that. And it impacted our Pelican numbers favorably because we now had another commercial property to assess money to.
Right.
But I didn't go far as you did to know exactly where it's going. I was of the assumption that it was part of our total
Well, see,
bundle.
and that's my question. I'm just asking, when I can't make, anytime I can't make math add, I get scared.
Well, anytime I
can't
deal with
make math
assessment,
add.
I can't make it add.
I can't make this add at all. In fact, I not only can't make it add, I can't make sense out of it. Now, if you say that part of our admin is included in Pelicans, and Pelicans 14% is what these people are picking up, and how they make that distribution among themselves is fine. But that was not included when we calculated the 14%. 14% was based upon 2,500 houses.
I
Well,
don't
and
know
it
that.
seems Russ is
Yeah,
the
that's
only
how
one
we
who's
did it.
going
Russ
to
is
be
the only
able
one
to
who can
answer
answer
that, Ed.
Well, I know
I mean,
that
I
was-
can't.
It's a good call out though, and
Yeah.
But
when
anyway,
does Russ get
It's a
back?
good
That's the only thing I had.
So you can look at it next
It'll be
week.
available Monday.
You can
Best
look at
I
it
can
next
tell,
week.
looking at the sheet, that's what it is, but again, without confirming it with Russ. 'Cause it's his-
And I'm
Well, once
assuming.
you do that, if you can do that on Monday, because the
No,
sooner the.
I'm off, I'll do it Tuesday.
Okay. Would you do it Monday? Because I think it's time sensitive, so
Yeah.
one less off your plate. Send it to us.
Yep, I can do that.
A yes or
Steven's
no.
on mine
A
too,
yes or
so-
no will do.
Yes,
Okay.
you got it.
He doesn't have to.
That's the only thing I had on the Pelican. I just couldn't make those numbers how they came out. But on our side, the only thing I saw was that $100,000 for additional park O&M that I'm sort of like, Doug, I don't think we're gonna touch that this year
Or you
in
could
2025.
repurpose that for your construction costs for the park, if you so chose. That's an extra.
Say that again?
Or
Oh,
you-
yeah.
Instead of having O&M, you
O&M.
could put it towards construction of the parks,
If we need it.
Yeah.
if you
Um,
needed it.
to Carol's point, do we need to look at do we need to look over our projects for next year
That, the plan was to do that with Lorna.
Well, I was gonna say, I thought we were gonna do that in September.
No, I'm talking about from a budget.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, from a
talking
budget perspective, we need to look through, just make sure we.
Well, there's nothing as numbers. Like all the numbers are there was from the last time we met.
No, I'm saying anything that we have in the budget planned for 2025. Has anything changed? Is there any, that's what you wanted to look at, is priorities for 2025 that we currently have budgeted.
That we probably,
You know.
probability is,
General fund.
it isn't gonna happen
Well,
in 25.
has anything
So
changed?
just move it to 26.
Well, I think the question is, we need to look at what we have allocated for 2025. And just to confirm, nothing's changed. We believe with at least an 80% confidence that we can get these done in 2025. Just a once over.
I think that park financing is the only thing that I saw that was a wash.
Most of the
To be
items,
determined.
most of the items that are in our capital budget are bond funded, that we're just trying to either wrap up or get done. Other than maybe the purchase of a piece of equipment or that's bond, keep going.
I didn't see it.
Other than purchasing of some equipment, that's really the only things that are coming out of our 001.
But as far as project related, yeah, okay.
How are we funding? I couldn't find it. When you get into the bonds, it's like going into Never Never Land
It
on those
is.
last
It
10
is.
sheets. Where is the $500,000 we gotta cough up to FPL?
We already paid it, and it was already
It's already paid?
Yep.
What did it pay out of?
out of the bond,
Out of the bond fund?
yes. And so ultimately, we had like $2 million in that line item in the bond, within that category. We've only spent $500,000, so we've got 1.5 that you could potentially use for another project within that category.
And the irrigation system that we know is gonna be $2.5 million.
Yep.
Where's that at right now?
Right there, bottom line,
It's in the bond fund also.
right there, master irrigation renovation, and it's all, that 2.24 is offset above by the bond proceeds. So we've already got that in there too.
No,
With the conversion to FP&L, did we ever get a synopsis of what we were spending? But due to this conversion, what we're going to be spending? I don't recall
We're,
having seen
we're,
that.
you've asked that, we're working on that and the Pelican one.
On what's that?
I just want to know that we're saving money.
I started pulling it together today, but then
Oh, you mean on FPL?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We made a decision to
Yeah.
change, and the change was predicated, it was going to save the community money. But I've never gotten that far in the process.
Well,
To
we
know
were-
that I'm
Well, I think we
were
did have
told-
some,
we
we
were
had some
told-
high-level conversations
But the way we
around
were told,
what we spent.
and I bought it, is that they can debt finance on a 40-year basis. Their rules allow that. We can't touch that. So if you're talking about $8, $9, $10 million of a debt P&I of 20 years versus 40 years, they're gonna win every time. But when you come back in and add what the cost is, we pay them for energy and maintenance of the
maintenance.
pole, and it gets to be $18, $20 a pole, what does that do under our own?
That's what I haven't seen. I
That's what
don't,
I've not
Well,
seen.
and also
That's what I wanna
efficiency
see.
saves, you know, converting over to
LED.
new efficient
Well,
systems.
part
and
of the
I mean, it's
properties
gonna be
and-
an increase because you're adding so much more. Like, we're not just taking 100 and replacing with 100.
Well-
So when you give us the math, you're not gonna see an additional savings because you're replacing 100, but you're adding, I'm just gonna say
Well,
300.
but you need to show that.
Oh, yes.
Well,
I just wanna make sure that when we look
Apples
at
to
it, we
apple,
don't look.
apples to apples, and then what is
is-
the net new?
Yeah.
But my
addition?
deal was, that the number we talked about, and we got into a discussion, but Warren's not here, but he and I went around and around on this, on FPL's bills to us. But we took Stony Brook, pushed it off to the side, because they're not in this. But what we had left, as I recall, was about 300 lights that Gateway has that is under study here.
Right.
Well, that's 300 times, I believe, 18 times 12.
And that's how I
And
did,
that
that's
is
how I
a
did
crap
that.
load
of money.
and that's
is
all
that
right.
in the budget.
So, but my question is, prior to the conversion, we were paying for the 300 poles and all the maintenance costs.
But we
and all
weren't paying
that.
the 18 and
And
12.
we weren't also doing maintenance, let's just be
Well,
real
no,
on
I
that
know
one.
that. That's one of the
But-
reasons that this
so-
is attractive. They're 20 years old.
But-
We
but-
understand that.
But I just want you to
30.
know that, like, when the numbers do come, we have to be conscious and say, well, it may be even, or maybe more, I have no idea.
It was gonna cost us
But
anyway.
it was gonna cost us anyway, because we needed it. And I do think that 300 included the additional areas that we needed to pulse, which was
Additional
over
lights.
here.
What I
Yeah.
did is I went through and I was analyzing what I had as their bills were at that time, trying to work backwards into it because I didn't know exactly. I knew we didn't have a maintenance component because we owned the lights, but we had an energy component, but I didn't know what that charge was. But anyway, I believe the number is somewhere around 300. But when we're done and they're in our deal here, our budget, sometime we're gonna have to come up with 300 times 18 times 12.
Mhm.
That's a lot of money.
The monthly expense,
That's monthly expense.
right,
Yes.
for the 300 poles. I understand that, but I'm trying to get, what is our current, prior to the change?
Well, we have
What
it,
are we-
we
what
have
are
it
we-
in the 2024 budget. What do we have budgeted for,
You can't-
basically it's electricity.
You can't look at budget
But
because
the
our
problem
repair
is you're apples
costs.
and oranges.
But
Our-
that
So
only
that's how-
doesn't
so
include
you're not
repair.
doing any repair.
I
Like, the
know.
lights go out, they stay out. It's just realistic. It
Yeah,
is
it's-
that. It is
Bob,
that, Bob, it's that
We haven't
bad.
paid any repairs?
Very
don't do
little,
anything.
very little, because
We
it,
don't do anything.
Over, since.
Okay.
and we also decided a few times, a few lights that needed repair, and it was digging, trenching and doing everything else, and that's what the FPL conversation started, because we said, look, we're gonna spend.
We're
this
faced with the
much.
same thing. But
We're- we're
what's
might
in
as
the
well-
ground is
we're might as
deteriorating.
well- We might as well don't even do this repair right now. We're aware of it.
I agree. We're not doing it because we think we're going to the new system. But nevertheless, this is one of the calculations we're going through right now, is when we're changing lines on our lights, repairing lights, we're having to run new conduit. Well, you'd want to minimize that if you're going to take the jump and go to this program. But since I haven't heard that we know we're in the new program and we know we're saving money, I'm a little reticent to recommend that in Pelican.
But we're gonna be
We
looking
just
for
wait a little.
somewhere.
I think it would be wise to wait and maybe.
Well, we are right now.
And
We're,
maybe even see everything will be fixed within 30 days. Because that is
Well-
that is my issue with FPL now, right
You know, the
now.
big difference though, really, between you guys and us on that issue is our underground system is broken. It's just simply
So's ours.
shot. But yours isn't as old as ours is.
Well,
It shouldn't be that bad.
it's
Oh,
bad.
It's bad?
It's bad.
But they're starting to run into some of the same issues.
We
over
got
at
the
what
same
we have
issues.
here.
Well, right now, what we have, as I recall, in the 2024 budget, it was somewhere around $25,000 to $35,000
For repairs.
no, not for repairs, for energy, electric,
Oh,
for streetlights,
well, that's
electric.
pretty cheap.
I think that's what the number was. Anyway, under this new deal, we're gonna more than double that. So we just be prepared for it, but it is
Okay.
apples and oranges
Is,
of what
is
we've
everything
got.
we're doing today, are the LEDs or are they sub incandescent?
We're converting everything to LED.
Not converted, what do we have now?
We have LED on all of Griffin. I don't know about Gateway Boulevard. Does
So it is a
have all
mix.
LED?
It's a mix of some LED and some of the old
Yeah,
technology.
it could be, yeah. Well, I think what it boiled down to, we weren't going to go in and change over to LED, only to throw it away a year later. So I don't think
But
that
see, we've
decision-
partially gone to LED. We spent a lot of money on that about 3, 4 years ago. Okay,
But the big,
Okay,
big,
so
big
all
thing
the
is we
money
do
for
need to
the
look at that.
FPL conversion is in this budget also?
We've already paid it out, we're done.
That's
We're-
what Ed was asking.
Oh,
If
No
I
more
went-
debt.
No, no.
Everything else is now paid for through the
Oh.
energy cost of the
Monthly,
light.
the monthly,
And
yes.
it's per pole, not metered per pole.
Yes, correct.
Estimated.
No, it's not estimated, it's per pole, period.
so we don't have to look at meters.
No, there is no
It's
meter.
just the
But I mean,
poles
they
times the
use
rate.
an estimate to come up with the price per pole.
Yes, which we did,
I don't know
we
how they
had
do
that.
I'll-
I'm pretty sure it's like eight, because it does vary depending on the size of the pole and items like that, but it was under $19.
Okay, if 20 poles are not working in a month, we get a credit,
Nope, you pay for it.
whether it's using it or not.
So that's what I was trying to tell you. My biggest thing is staff, and the map is pretty easy. I will give FPL credit. It is very easy. You just open
seen it.
and, you know, the.
Ride down the
reporting-
road and look.
Reporting it, adding it, and then just keep it up on.
Well, what spooked
During
us,
hurricane, I will tell you, you'll be like 2 to 3 months because they prioritize.
Absolutely, that's
But
reasonable.
otherwise, they're pretty good. I would say 30 days. They say 7 days, 30.
Yeah.
Within
What's-
30 days, I have the stuff replaced over there.
what
But
spooked us was when, I think Tetra Tech came in with that cost, that capital of well over $8 million we were gonna have to spend.
To replace
That was,
and put new.
to replace and not to bring it up to standards.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember
Well-
that. I remember that vividly. It was just to exchange what we
We had
have.
different energy
Yeah.
companies. You had Bentley Electric doing some of the stuff, you had somebody else doing something else, and FPL did theirs. That kept it all confused too, for us.
All right. Anything in the budget, because we have 15 minutes, anything in the budget that like we wanted to look at it, but I'm in line with Ed on this one. I looked, there was nothing that like I couldn't find anything else, and everything that was capital, mainly everything is coming through bonds. So,
Well, the only reluctance I had on the Pelican budget is they have elected not to put aside reserves this year. Usually they've been putting $200,000 a year. Now they think they're
but that was
gonna,
P-PAC's recommendation, correct?
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
So you
That was
can,
the
you
only-
can still do that if you just reallocate line items. I'm
Well, they
just
think they're gonna get there with some savings in some of the categories, so they believe they're gonna net out neutral. But that was the only big change that I,
What
Wait.
they had said is they were gonna use some of their carry forward to
That's
fund the
what I-
reserves, because that way they're not assessing for it.
Right.
So when they have the carry forward from the 24 budget, they'll put that into reserves in the 25 budget.
but it's the first budget in 15 years that
That you don't
PPAC,
That they haven't
reserves.
that we didn't have an
assessed, yeah.
identified amount.
Yeah.
Okay.
well, the only thing that came up on this one was I got the newspaper ad, and I looked at it, and I, oh crap, we have the wrong form. If you recall, our anticipated rate is inside the gate here, inside the gate, this side of the gate. Our cost was $1,200, but the table that we have in the newspaper shows $900. You have to read the article that says that that doesn't include the debt and the pond banks.
You have to add in the debt.
You gotta add that in, so people coming here thinking it's gonna be 905 and it's 1208.
Well, Pelican people have to do that too.
Do what?
We all do, yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
Everybody. I mean, do we send out those notices or, oh,
Yes,
okay.
they
When
came
we
out
send
last
out
week.
those notices, it's in there what the bond payment is. You just have to add it
You gotta
on.
add it all up, yeah.
you gotta read it.
You gotta read it.
That's the
Tony-
first challenge.
Tony finally let us include the debt service amount in the letters. Last year was the first year that we included both numbers in there because it was very confusing. Because the letter would just have the O&M number, and then the tax bills would go out, and we would get bombarded with phone calls saying, it says it won't be more than this, and I'm like, well, but if you
Yeah.
read it, it says it doesn't include debt service. So now we actually
It's
provide
nice
the
that-
debt service number as well as the O&M numbers. They can just add them together. So that was new starting last year. This is the second year that we've included both of the numbers in there.
But you can mess with it, But you're gonna move 1208 to 1205. That's
And
what it
so
boils down
that's,
to.
and that's what I'm saying, like, there was nothing that was major that we wouldn't do it. All right, so I think we're good with
Yeah,
everything?
I didn't see in the version 4 chart, the breakdown chart of what increases year over year. Do we have that? Like we did before?
A year over
For
year.
O2, all the O2 people, single family home,
Oh,
multi, what
we,
that
that was,
number-
that was not in the budget. That was something that I think Laura did last.
Oh, you
Well, it's
Yeah.
always been in every
Last
package
2 or
we've
3
ever
years.
gotten, but I didn't see, yeah, but I didn't see it in this version 4.
No, I.
It shows the
I-
24.
It was,
that's
it was a separate document that we
Yeah,
had
that's not
asked.
part
That
of
is
the
not part of the
budget.
budget.
It's not-
It may be included
In
as
prior
a.
years, it had been. I know
No,
it's not-
that was a separate document.
There was a
that-
separate document
Okay.
that was.
not
In
part of the
prior
budget.
years, I saw a separate document.
Okay, there you
I'd
go.
like
I
to
like
see-
that.
I'd like to see that separate document as part of version 4 too. Just so I
Alright.
can keep it in mind. And version 2 did have that as a separate document.
Stephen Bloom, I see you're online. Can you add that in as part of your stuff that you bring to our meeting when we have that, the public hearing on the 15th? Just that trend of the history for both Gateway and for Pelican for the assessments, please?
Yeah, sure. That was actually a separate PowerPoint slides we did.
If you, yeah, you usually include that in
Yeah.
your presentation. So if you could please be sure that that's part of your presentation in 2 weeks.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Alright, so nothing else in the budget, so we're actually
No.
already 10 minutes?
If you guys
Okay,
are
I
happy.
am not going to even ask one more time.
What
And
did you
I'll
say?
try-
10
You
years
started
ago-
laughing.
Exactly, right.
10
I was
years,
like, I'm
10
not even
years
asking.
ago, there was blood on the floor to do this.
Oh, we're working
There
together.
really never been feedback. They've done a pretty good
Yeah.
job
That
of
was
this.
good.
And then
For
I'll
years.
I'll try to work, I know Daniel's leaving, I'll try to work with Chelsea and then Daniel into the actual amount, the $700,000, and then bring it to you guys.
You mean
Right,
option-
Chelsea?
So
options
who's
that-
gonna
Yes.
talk to Wes about
Okay.
the outside stuff?
I am.
Chelsea,
already-
so Monday.
yeah,
she's
I
gonna
already
just
sent
send
an
us
email. I'll be around on Monday. I just won't be here.
Alright. Okay, so we have 10 minutes.
All right,
Okay.
so we'll
I'm gonna
reconvene
do
at 3.
that.